The horrifying story of the elderly woman who was found dead has left the community in shock. The 98-year-old woman, Margaret Douglas, had been reported missing and was later found dead in a hidden location within her house. The investigation revealed a chilling belief that the perpetrator had planned to kill numerous people using Margaret as a warm-up for those other killings. 17-year-old Gavin Ramsey was apprehended and brought in for interrogation in connection with the murder of Margaret Douglas. Detectives were initially unaware that they were dealing with a person who harbored morbid fantasies about killing and harming innocent people. Margaret Mary Frick Douglas was born on September 15, 1919, in Akron, Ohio. She was the second oldest of 4 children in her family and was described by many as a generous yet independent person. After World War II, Margaret married her soulmate, Donald Douglas, and relocated to Wadsworth, Ohio. The couple chose not to have children, and Wadsworth, a small and safe suburban town with a close-knit community, was perfect for them. The couple was constantly surrounded by loved ones, including family members and friendly neighbors. Despite this support, Margaret never depended on anyone for most tasks, neither after the passing of Donald nor into her elderly years. She was proud of her 98-year-old self and eagerly looked forward to turning 100 years old. Unfortunately, her dreams were crushed by a tragic and brutal murder, which left the once safe town in an utmost state of shock. Before we proceed, here's a quick question. How many years ago did the Margaret Douglas case occur? A. 57 years ago. B. 67 years ago. C. 77 years ago. Or D. 87 years ago. The answer is B. 67 years ago. A call to the police was made by Howard Leisure, expressing the alarming situation that his aunt, who lived on Portage Street, was nowhere to be found after a friend checked on her. There were no reports of anyone wandering, and she could not be found in the house. Margaret Douglas lived there by herself. The police of Medina County were confronted with the mystery of her death after she was reported missing. Initially, there were no obvious signs of foul play, but her body was later found in a hidden location. The investigation revealed that her nightgown had been fully unbuttoned, revealing her torn underwear, and her neck and face were covered with marks indicating sexual assault and strangulation. The police struggled to find a prime suspect, as most leads led to dead ends until they received complaints about petty crimes in the vicinity of Margaret's house. One complaint involved a man named Paul, who had met a young man on a dating app called Grindr. During their meeting, the young man pushed Paul out of his car and drove off with his belongings. The suspect was known to have blue eyes. Later, police were notified of 2 young men running around parking lots and breaking into a construction site, leaving behind a cell phone. The phone belonged to a teen named Zach, who was identified and questioned. Zach claimed he never intended to carry out the thefts and was influenced by his partner, Gavin Ramsey. Gavin, a 17-year-old with blue eyes and a record of petty crimes, was brought in for interrogation with his mother. This interrogation was analyzed by a forensic psychiatry doctor at the University of Rosenberg in Germany. The analysis revealed that Gavin exhibited psychopathy, characterized by continuous antisocial behavior, impulsivity, selfishness, callousness, unemotional traits, and remorselessness. Gavin's psychopathy was mixed with sadism and sexual perversions such as necrophilia. Did you know that these cases can lead to changes in legal approaches to juvenile crime, family counseling, and child protection services? They often spark discussions about the effectiveness of early intervention and the support systems for troubled youth. During the interrogation, Gavin admitted to sneaking out with his friend, who was 18, and walking around the neighborhood. They climbed on top of a church and went into the courtyard. Gavin denied any involvement in the carjacking, stating he had never left Overlook. He also denied using the app Grindr, claiming he was not gay and was not bothered by gay people. The detectives confronted Gavin about the serious incidents in his neighborhood, including a carjacking by a suspect matching his description. Gavin continued to deny involvement. The interrogation revealed that Gavin had dark thoughts and a troubled past, but he claimed he never intended to harm anyone. However, the police found a disturbing app on his phone titled Dark, secured by the passcode Murder, where Gavin had stored videos of his crimes. The investigation revealed that Gavin had broken into Margaret's house, watched her as she slept, and then attacked her when she woke up. He strangled her to death and spent hours pursuing his sickening desires with her lifeless body. Gavin left behind a glove with Margaret's DNA on the outside and his on the inside. The police were certain of his guilt and brought him in for a second round of interrogation. Gavin's defensive reaction and dishonesty during the interrogation further indicated his guilt. The interrogation continued to reveal disturbing details. Gavin's defensive reaction and dishonesty became more apparent. He claimed he couldn't stop himself once he started, and his actions were influenced by an adrenaline rush. However, the discovery of a journal in his room filled with daily entries fantasizing about the works of serial killers, particularly Ted Bundy, suggested otherwise. One of these journal entries stated that he wanted to beat a person repeatedly until they could not breathe anymore and wanted to know what it felt like to stand over a dead person. Gavin's statements during the interrogation often contradicted the evidence found by the police. He admitted to the carjacking but lied about the duration he spent in Margaret's house. He claimed he couldn't fathom harming anyone, yet his actions and the evidence on his phone proved otherwise. His journal entries fantasized about harming people, and he meticulously planned his crimes. Gavin expressed remorse for his actions, stating he wished he could take it back, but his plans to run away and continue his criminal behavior suggested otherwise. He believed his behavior was due to an adrenaline rush and mental health struggles, but the evidence indicated premeditation and a lack of remorse. Gavin's strong psychopathy, mixed with sadism and sexual perversions, drove him to commit these heinous crimes. During the court proceedings, the prosecution presented overwhelming evidence of Ramsey's guilt, including the forensic findings and his own incriminating statements. The defense attempted to argue that Ramsey's mental state should be considered, highlighting his history of psychological problems and suggesting that he was not fully aware of the consequences of his actions. However, the brutality and premeditated nature of the crime led the court to try Ramsey as an adult. On January 3, 2019, Gavin Ramsey was found guilty of the murder of Margaret Douglas and received a life sentence without the possibility of parole for the aggravated murder of Margaret Douglas. He was also sentenced to 10 years in prison for aggravated burglary, kidnapping, and abuse of a corpse. However, a bill introduced to the Ohio Supreme Court allowed a person tried for any crime under the age of 18 to be eligible for parole after serving 25 to 35 years of their original sentence. For the family of Margaret Douglas, the sentencing provided a sense of justice, though it could never fully alleviate their grief. The tragic and brutal murder of Margaret Douglas left a lasting impact on the community of Wadsworth, Ohio, a once safe town now haunted by the memory of this senseless act of violence. Did you know that some high-profile cases where sons have been revealed as killers have led to notable changes in public policy or legal reforms aimed at preventing similar incidents in the future? This case serves as a reminder of the hidden dangers even in the safest communities. While justice has been served, the new legislation could potentially alter his sentence in the future, raising important questions about mental health and criminal behavior. The case also underscored the need for addressing mental health issues early and comprehensively to prevent such horrific acts of violence. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Stay safe and see you in the next video.